Sorry about the darkness of the video. I'm actually taking a walk right now. I decided I should probably go ahead and make another video. Back when my wife first met me, I'd go to sleep at 8 o'clock at night and wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I loved it. All those hours before the world would wake up. I could just be out and enjoy the air, the quiet air. Well, it's about 6 o'clock right now. I can hear all the tires on the highway a mile away. You're going to hear that on the highway anyway, even in the middle of the night, but nevertheless. I had another conversation with her yesterday, this time over Messenger. I absolutely hate communicating that way. But I also didn't want to overwhelm her, and she uses text to communicate so she can disconnect emotionally. It's easier for her that way. She was the kid that was ignored growing up. I was too, but I was ignored by different people. She was ignored by her family, but her friends didn't ignore her. I was the one who was ignored by his friends. And of course that made me develop a little bit differently, but anyway, it's neither here nor there. There's a guy who wrote a book. He's a counselor. The book is called There's a Hole in My Love Cup. She has that book. I don't know if she's still reading it. I hope she is. I don't even remember everything I said to her over the messenger, but none of it was bad. It was just more apologies, telling her that I was sorry for the way I acted. And now I'm not saying that she didn't do anything to hurt me, and she knew she did stuff to hurt me. And yes, she was unapologetic about most of it. But as we tend to do, I was scrolling through all the reels on Facebook, which Facebook is where I go most of the time. I miss MySpace. Yes, Tom, I'm still talking to you. Anyway, and the I guess conclusion I've come to is that it doesn't matter to me that she hurt me. What matters to me in regard to that specifically is whether she wants to continue hurting me. But what matters most to me now is whether I hurt her, whether I continue to hurt her. Yeah, I have needs. I have needs that only my wife can provide. And I'm not talking about just in the bedroom. Our spouse is supposed to be the half of us that we're missing. I mean, I don't really just mean spiritually, okay? I like to talk about God, and people can ridicule me or not, whatever, doesn't matter. I don't have these opinions because others like them. I like to talk about God and how we were designed specifically to love and serve Him, and I believe it. But He completes us. God completes us. And that's just the way we were made. But see, whenever He made man, He made man to need Him to exist. Okay? But He paraded all of His creation in front of Adam saying, surely I'll find him a companion, someone who could be his helpmeet, as it were, basically a person to complete his life. Because man was made incomplete. Man was made incomplete to be a part of God. But because he also made us to freely love him, we were complete in another way, or incomplete in another way. Incomplete in the way that we are not emotionally or physically complete. Even if we're spiritually complete in God, we're not emotionally or physically complete just in ourselves. Because the funny thing is, the more emotionally stable a person becomes, they go to counseling and therapy and psychiatrists and all that stuff, and the more emotionally stable and physically fit would be the most appropriate word, that person becomes, the more they want love from another human. Not need, want. And the reason for that is we're not supposed to be alone. She's my other half. We're supposed to complete each other, and it's supposed to be that way. I asked her, demanded that she complete me. And a lot of that came in words of, I need you to do for me what I can't do for myself. And no, I'm not talking about in the bedroom. I'm talking about emotionally, psychologically. And yeah, physically. But mostly emotionally and psychologically. And that was kind of an unfair demand. Is it something I'd still like? Yeah. Truth is, I'm not capable of loving myself. I really don't think I'm capable of loving myself. Because I see what other people don't. The things I've never told anyone. I got so angry with so many things. It was just, they weren't stupid things to get angry over. It was just stupid to get angry over them. Anyway, I'm going through Facebook and I come across this video of a street preacher. He's not just a street preacher, but he was in the street preaching. And he was talking about the 10 Commandments as a set of rules that are objectively true. And she was asking, this girl that he was talking to on the street was asking, well, does that constitute objective truth? Just the 10 Commandments as raw commands. And the way he explained it is, if I do this thing wrong, it's because if I do this thing wrong to you, if I steal from you, I am not loving you. If I lie to you, disrespecting you, that's not love. That's what he said. Those words. If I lie to you, I'm disrespecting you. That's not love. I've lied to her. I have lied to her. And I've always regretted lying to her. Even while I was still lying to her. And I know that doesn't sound right, but when you're hurt and you're being stupid, you can justify just about anything. No matter how hurtful or untrue it is. But after everything that I had done and said came to light, because I did for a long time, I spent most of our marriage not treating our marriage like a marriage. And I'm not going to even talk about any of the things that she did, because that creates more animosity than forgiveness. And that is not love. Forgiveness is love, animosity is not. If you love someone, forgive them. If you can't do that, then find out why. And don't look at the way. And here's the thing about forgiveness is the reason people can't forgive is because they have something in them that makes them feel like they're the victim. Which, even if they are the victim, that is what keeps the forgiveness at bay. It doesn't let it in. You don't get to forgive whenever you come from a place of persistent hurt. So, I will talk about what I've done wrong. And I did a lot of it. Through our marriage, I lied. I cheated. Deceived. I was harsh. Which goes back to another video I watched, which brought up relevant scriptures from the Bible, talking about how a woman should treat a man and how a man should treat a woman. A spouse, not just any woman. Actual husband and wife. Talking about how you should speak to her softly, treat her gently, protect her, love her the way Christ loved the church. And don't forget, Christ was so patient with his disciples, who were the first church. Those 12 disciples, they were the first church. Not those apostles who were in the upper room, who received the Holy Spirit as a flame. No. That wasn't the first church. Jesus was the first pastor, and his 12 disciples were the first church. He was so patient with them, never abandoning them. He would correct them, yes. He absolutely did correct them. And as husband and wife, we should be correcting each other. Not husband only to wife, but husband and wife should be correcting each other. Because we're bound together. I should be telling her, hey, this thing isn't right. And she should be telling me, hey, that thing isn't right. And we should each say, okay, let me fix it. But he loved his church so much that he was patient enough to never leave them. He made certain that they knew that he was always there. Like whenever he was on, I don't remember which sea it was. They were crossing the sea. And here came this great storm. He's asleep in the hold. And the 12 disciples are up on the upper deck. Which I don't know how big the ship is, but anyway. They were on the deck, and they were losing their minds because this storm was about to capsize that little boat. However little it was, whatever. Storms get big enough, a ship can be capsized. And they woke him up. It's like, do you even care? We're about to die. And he said, oh, you have so little faith. He stood up and told the storm to stop. And it did. But see, the funny thing is that wasn't even the real miracle. I mean, that was a miracle. But the real miracle was his patience. It's like, wow, you have so little faith. But you know what? I love you, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to do this thing that I don't even actually have to do. Not because you're going to die if I don't, but because I love you enough to comfort you. Man, did I mess up. If I'm always telling her that she's wrong for not trusting, if I stare at that storm and tell her, you're wrong for not trusting me, and I let that storm rage on, then whether we live through that storm or not, I've hurt her. I've not shown her love or compassion. I've shown her expectation. Should we have expectations? Yes. That's part of our core standards. Our expectations of other people are laid out by our standards. Yes, I should have expectations of her. Just like she should have expectations of me. But that expectation should not override love and compassion. That doesn't mean to compromise your standards. What that means is to understand that when you show love to someone, then you are giving them security. That was a word that she and I saw differently, still see differently. When I think of security, I think of security in each other. Knowing that the other one has your back. Knowing that if you're hurting, they'll comfort you. And if they're hurting, you'll comfort them. Knowing that no matter how hard things get or how bad things get, you're always there for each other. Whether you're in a 3-story mansion or you're living in a cardboard box under a bridge, you got each other. Hold each other whenever you're hurting or cold. Stand in between that person and danger. Fight to the death to make sure they don't die. That's what I see security. For her, it was never questioning whether you were going to live in a cardboard box. To her, it was knowing that when you turned on the water to the shower, it wasn't going to cause problems. To her, it was knowing that whenever you got in your vehicle, it would start and go. Their standards are different. She grew up with a lot more money than I did. And so, funny thing is my brother and I, we grew up in the same household. You know, there's a psychologist, I guess, psychiatrist, Jordan Peterson. I want to say it was Jordan Peterson. My memory tends to fail me. But I want to say it was Jordan Peterson that said that two people... No, it wasn't him. Man, I wish I could remember who it was. Nevertheless, this psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever, said that two people who grow up in the same house don't grow up with the same parents. And the weird thing about that is, you know, if you think about it, you can see how that can be reasoned out. And it can be reasoned out. And the reasoning is no matter how the parents are as people, no matter how much they love each child individually, those parents are going to show up differently for each child because each child has different needs. I mean, the same can be said for toxic parents. Parents who are narcissistic, borderline, or just self-centered. Even those parents, they show up differently for each child. And what that does is that cultivates differences in perception. The personalities are there. That doesn't change. It wouldn't matter if the kids were raised by wolves. The personalities would still be whatever they were going to be in the first place. That's actually determined by genetics, as I found out. I thought it was determined by rearing. but it was not. It's been determined by genetics. And man, this video is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm sorry for those who are used to watching my shorter videos, but I have a lot to say. So anyway, my brother and I grew up in the same household. We have a sister too, but I use my brother because we're both men, and we both grew up in the same household at the same time. My sister's almost 2 years older than I am, and I'm the middle child, and she moved out years before we did. We stayed in our parents' house probably 5 or 6 years after that. Anyway, irrelevant. We grew up poor, and I mean poor. And he as an adult has decided to pursue financial security, money. And it started out as money for its own sake because he never wanted to be poor again. Now I think it's more along the lines of money so he can acquire the things that he always wanted to have. Nevertheless, he pursues money. He's not wrong for it. I mean, does he love it? I don't know. It could be something similar to myself where he views it as a tool, but a valuable tool. So I can't say whether he loves money or not, but he does pursue it, and he pursues it for that security. Me, I hate money. If I could acquire the things that I always wanted, the life that I ever wanted, the life that I always wanted, without ever touching a single penny, I'd do it. Because money it's stupid. It's probably the most worthless tool that ever existed. It only exists so people can get a leg up over other people. I mean, it started out as a way to create commerce, but you can do that by trading items. You don't have to have money. And I've done that before too. And so long as the other person is reasonable, not obstinate in their ways, it works out pretty well for both parties. So, for my brother, money is security. Financial stability is security. But for me, it's not paramount. It's just not. For me, emotional surety is security. Relationship stability is security. Well, my wife, she grew up with money, looking out the window at those who were poor. Not in an arrogant way, but just she didn't grow up poor. So when she'd see poor people, all she saw was the failed quality of life simply because they didn't have the money for this basic thing or that basic thing. And she's not wrong in her thinking. And so she saw the poor from the outside looking in, and she saw the security that her parents' finances gave them. Heard the stories of before her parents had those finances. So for her, she chose, whether consciously or subconsciously, chose a life where she never had to question whether she was going to have basic needs. And it's understandable. I ridiculed her for that. I shouldn't have. Even now, the concept, while I understand it on an intellectual level, I can't connect with it. It doesn't really make sense to me. Because I've had money and I've been homeless. And I've had clothes so tattered that They couldn't even be considered legal if you turned or bent a certain way. I've gone without food. I mean, I've been starving. And the thing in all of that, the thing that I wanted most wasn't even money. It was love, affection, emotional stability. Relationship stability. I wanted somebody who could kiss me and hold me and love me, to look at my faults and say, hey, let's work on them together. So we grew up different lives. I don't know if she respects my outlook. I don't know. I can't speak for her. I didn't respect her outlook. Because to me, using money to acquire security is foolish. Will I change my outlook? No. That's part of my core personality. You don't change who you are. You can change how you see things. Because the truth is, people don't change. People don't change. Your personality, who you are, will always be the same to the day you die. However, what you do isn't actually determined by who you are. What you do is determined by how you perceive things. I will never love money. Will I pursue money? Of course. I need money for the things that I want in life, which may even include my wife. If she continues on with the divorce, I can't blame her. I was not kind, and I did things while we were married that deserve it, and I did things before we were married that, had she known, she would have been completely right in refusing me. I didn't even give her that chance. You know, crazy thing is, I told my wife whenever she told me she wanted a divorce, or even before then while we were fighting a lot, I told her that the only good thing that came out of our marriage was our 4 kids. Beautiful, intelligent, powerful kids. I love them. Said that out of anger. Now, the funny thing is it was right. For both of us. I didn't deceive her into loving me. I didn't. She said that she felt this way the first time she saw me. That she loved me. She wanted me. Man, I was so stupid. I believe that was God. I always questioned whether those words she told me were true. That she saw me and her heart fluttered. She was with somebody else at the time. She felt like her feelings were wrong, that she shouldn't have felt that way because she was with someone else. And she was right, but you can't control your feelings. You can just control what you do with them. And she did. And then once they were no longer together, because they were engaged, they weren't married. Once they were no longer together, about 2 weeks later, she and I got together. She asked me. And I never believed throughout our entire relationship that she actually loved me. That she appreciated me. That she enjoyed me. That any of the things that I did made her happy. And of course, whenever she kicked back and bucked and got frustrated and angry with me, to me that confirmed it all. The truth of the matter is, I didn't think that she actually loved me because I didn't think I could be loved. I didn't think that she actually enjoyed me because I was always pushed away by my friends at some point. I didn't think she actually appreciated me because throughout my life I was ridiculed for being me. Which I know that sounds like a whole blanket excuse, but I was difficult to handle growing up. I guess I still am, but in a different way. ADHD as a kid is rough for the parents. And I never thought that she liked any of the things that I did, because most of the time what I got whenever I did something, when I accomplished something, was indifference. Because the best I got was indifference for most of the time. Otherwise it was ridicule because I didn't do it right, it wasn't good enough, or some other thing like that. Truth is, whenever we started our relationship, I honestly had myself convinced that I wasn't bringing any baggage into our relationship. And I was. I just didn't know it. Here I am, almost 40 years old, finally learning the things I should have learned growing up. The aspects of myself that I missed. Absolutely atrocious behaviors. Disgusting behaviors. Stem from something I didn't even know happened. Things that needed to be corrected that I didn't even know existed to be corrected. If she goes through with the divorce, I don't blame her. There's no amount of apology that'll be enough. Love without expectation. If they hurt you, don't punish them for it. Love them again. If they get to the point where they can't even handle themselves, put them in a place where themselves is all they have to handle. This separation has been the absolutely best thing that could have happened for our relationship. I just hope it didn't happen too late. Sorry, emotional dysregulation is part of ADHD. So anyway, back in 2009, while she was still pregnant with our first child, I cheated on her. That wasn't the last time either. And yes, I understand if you cheat, you don't deserve forgiveness in the mainstream idea of relationships. And honestly, nobody actually deserves forgiveness. I'm not unrepentant, and I'm not saying that I didn't do anything wrong or that I deserve all these second chances, thirds, fourths, fifths, and 5,000ths. I don't demand forgiveness. I did demand forgiveness. Now I hope for it. But, and this is another thing for those of you who have cheated on your spouses, husband, wife, whatever. Wow, the thought's gone. Maybe that was just for me. Well, that thought's gone. Apparently that thought was just for me. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I did cheat on her. And back then I felt not only unappreciated, I felt completely unloved and unwanted. She was resisting me. She was withdrawing from me. There were a lot of other things going on for her part. And it got to the point where I felt so unloved and unwanted that I sought affection elsewhere. And withholding affection, rather I should say withdrawing affection, has always been her go-to. I don't know if it's been as a punishment or just because she's one of those that retreats whenever things get bad. I don't know. That's a conversation I wouldn't mind having with her again, because we never did complete that conversation. Anyway. And then I just continued being stupid for the next decade. And then again after. Like I said, I did a lot of stupid things during our relationship. That's what it was. Forgiveness is a gift. If you've betrayed someone to such a profound degree, don't expect forgiveness. Hope for it. And if that person forgives you, treat it like the most precious thing that you've ever received from a person, because on their part, for their part, it absolutely is. I am not saying that she never did anything wrong. She did a lot of things that hurt me, and she continued those things unapologetically. But you know, the Bible says that love keeps no record of wrongs. It's not proud, it doesn't boast. I mean, there's a whole description of love in the Bible several times over. And the thing is my love for her should not be determined by her love for me. Because if God's love for us were determined by our love for Him, there wouldn't have been humans on this earth for the last 8,000 years. We would have been wiped out millennia ago. Shoot. Go back to the Garden of Eden. If God's love for us had been determined by our love for Him, then the moment that Adam and Eve ate that fruit, God wouldn't have kicked them out of the garden. He would have obliterated them and started over. But He wanted to give them a chance to redeem themselves, because He loves them. My love for her should not be determined by her love for me. It shouldn't be determined by what she does right or wrong. If my love wanes because things aren't going according to what I think they should, to any degree, one way or the other, then it's not actually love, is it? If your love for someone can be changed by how they act, then it never was love. Because love, as it says, never fails. So, I don't love her according to how she treats me, because that's stupid. I love her according to how I love her, because I love her. So if she continues with the divorce, I have to stay single. Not for herself or myself, but for any woman I would come into a relationship with. Because I I can't have a relationship with a woman while I'm still in love with another. That would be stupid. And that's a position I should have had over a decade ago. So if you haven't done something so stupid as to cheat on your spouse, don't. If it gets to that point, you'd be better off just separating. Getting your heads right, finding out what's wrong with you. Because if you can go so far as to cheat, there's something wrong with you. And if you have cheated, then understand that if they've forgiven you, that is the most precious gift they could give you. And you should treat it like gold, like platinum. Hold it. Baby it. Keep it clean. So, after almost 45 minutes, I'm going to have to close this. Again, I'm sorry for the long video. I know you're probably, those who do watch, probably used to my much shorter videos, but this all needed to be said. And I guess I'm going to close it with my typical closing statement of just be better.